Hey everyone, welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, the podcast for everything Harbor Park. If you enjoy our episodes, please give us a like and share it with someone you know. Doing so helps us get higher ratings on iTunes and in turn helps us reach more people and helps them find our podcast episodes so that we can impact more people's lives. Also, if you have not done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode from us. Now, on with the show.
Welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 70 of Anchored at Harbor Park. I'm Coach Jason.
I'm Coach Dave.
Coach Corian.
And today we are going to talk about our most influential books and podcasts. So my icebreaker for you guys is, what was the last podcast episode you listened to, and what was it about?
Dave and I have done a lot of driving this last week to and from Chi-Town and my family, so we've listened to a lot of podcasts because we still don't really listen to music. Mm-hmm. So we kind of found a couple different ones that we weren't going to bother each other's podcasts, but that we could listen to together.
Mutual listening.
Yeah. So Dave's got a really good one that I like to get really hyped about. It's called Motherfucking CEO.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew
Freza. Andrew Freza.
Yeah. So that was good. That was all about...
Andrew Freza's the 7-figure box.
Yeah. No. I can't think... I know the...
Frizella.
Yeah.
Frizella.
Yeah.
Anthony, maybe? Anthony Frizz, something like that?
I think so.
We're sorry, but we like the podcast. But the episode was like 3 things that people like online tell you need to do to increase your business and how stupid they are. And like, not necessarily that I don't think that they're stupid. It's just like, he's like, you're worrying about these 3 things, but you don't even like have a product yet. Like, you should have a product that you can help people before you start DMing them all the time. So it was good. It was a good podcast.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, that was the last one we listened to. We listened to it together.
Yep.
I just like it because he says it how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last one I listened to has 0% application in my life. It was about... it was part of a personal finance podcast that I'll talk more about later, but the episode was about one of their connections who was an Airbnb lady. Like, she owned a few Airbnb properties and managed them, and it's talking about like how to make more money doing Airbnb. Turns out like if you lease an apartment, it depends on laws and like your lease agreement and everything, but you could like literally full-time Airbnb your apartment even if you don't own it. And she like started by doing that, and then got another place and then did that.
Interesting.
It's kind of crazy, yeah.
My brother was talking about when he goes back to the islands after this hurricane season, if his boat doesn't sell, doing it Airbnb.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. I'm like, doesn't need a lot of work,
Right.
but.
So I don't have any plans of doing Airbnb, but it was interesting. It's kind of cool to just see what other opportunities are out there, what people are doing, and listen to them.
Yeah, that's neat. So if you're listening to this, chime in. What are you guys listening to out there?
Hope it's ours.
Yeah.
Besides this one.
I guess if you're listening to this, then by default listen to our podcast. So what do we want to do here? Kind of just go round robin and talk about things we're listening to, or
let's do it. And then I'd like to touch on why you're listening to it and what you're learning from it too. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think too, me and Coach Jared were going back and forth because he had posted a thing today, and I loved it. I love what he posted, and it was a screenshot from the guy that wrote Atomic Habits, and he was like, he talks about that book all the time. It is on my list. He's like, bump it up on your list. I'm like, okay, after the one I'm reading currently, that one will be the next one.
I'm listening to that one right now.
Yeah, are you? Sweet. So, who wants to go first?
Jay, you want to go?
Sure.
Podcast or book?
I'll go with book. So I kind of have like a journey through my books. So what I read every morning, I read a hard book, and then every night when I'm food prepping for the next day, I listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
And so I'll start back in January when I was not very motivated to get in my morning routine. I had just moved and like things were kind of not settled in. But I was given Jocko's new book, Discipline Equals Freedom. And it's a super easy read, like 20 words a page. But if you know Jocko, it's very like motivating and very black and white, like get up and do it. Kind of like everything. And so that was a great book to start the year when I was not so motivated.
Yeah.
Super easy and like actionable things you can do.
We can't go that way.
So I'd recommend like if you're trying to get in these habits, that would be a good one to start with. It's nice and easy, it's short, and it kind of motivates you a little bit.
Good, yeah. I liked his other book,
Learn to Extreme Leadership.
Extreme Leadership, yeah. I really like that book, so I'm sure that one would be a good one as well.
So that one's obviously helped you feel?
Yeah, and it was just the first book, and then, do you want me to keep on?
No, we'll go around, but like,
Right.
specifically, what'd you learn about?
It was nothing. I didn't really learn anything. It was everything I knew, about building habits and, exercising and eating well and sleeping, all that kind of stuff. It was just seeing it. Sometimes you need reminders and you need it in front of you to kind of get your butt back in action.
Dave and I talked about that because I'll talk about my book in a second, but it's one that Dave said the same thing. He's like, listen to it. It's one that we already know all these things. It's just another constant reinforcement and another way to maybe word it or go about it. Yeah.
So it wasn't like groundbreaking or anything, but it kind of kicked my butt in gear, especially after like the holidays. And so
I think it's kind of cool. Like obviously some of the books that I've been reading, a lot of the same messages, going to the next book, and you're like, oh yeah, I read that or I heard that before. But it's like the way they say it or the way that, I don't know, maybe just a different point in your life, and it's like, okay, now it's hitting home. Now, okay, now I gotta apply what he's saying. It's not like, probably what you read from him. It's like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, you heard it before, and all of a sudden it just was like the way he said it. And like you said, he's very motivating. Mm-hmm. I mean, if anybody's listened to Jocko or read anything from him, it's definitely motivating. So it was just the way it came off for you.
So that was my first book, and I think I'm on my 8th or 9th now, and my goal is to read 12 this year. So
nice.
I think too, one of the biggest things about like why you keep doing these books, or like I remember Eric Holz, he said he goes back to a lot of his books and rereads them or re-listens to them. Think about fitness. How many times do we sit here and go over bar path drills? How many times do we do technique drills? Because every time you're like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Knees out, butt back, stay on your heels, but I need constant reminders.
Or, you read something, I shouldn't say or, but you read something the first time and you pick up bits and pieces, you implement those things, you go read it again at a later date, you can catch on other things that you might not have caught before.
And I think a lot of that has to do with like where are you currently in your process. Like if I went back and, which I highly want to do, reread my precision nutrition, there's so many more things that are going to make sense to me versus where I was two and a half years ago when I took that course.
Like a totally different book.
Yeah, that's on my to-do, is to get back to that again. So my book that I'm currently listening to is called, and I'm sure we've talked about it before because it's one of Dave's favorites, 10X.
Yeah.
And I forget who the author of that book is. I don't want my phone to play, so I feel bad if it's does that, by Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of the same things that I've heard before when it comes to business, but like the whole book is about for me, the biggest takeaway that I'm getting is like, if you do the average things, you will get the average results. So we're running a gym. I do health coaching. I do fitness. We have family, all of these things. And it's like everything in your life, if you just attack it at an average level, you will have an average gym. So what is that? That 10X is really just about going above and beyond that average in order to then create something that's special. And I think that's something that we do here. And I think for me personally, I'm taking it into more of my health coaching business and said that one is kind of just me.
Right.
And realizing that in order to reach more people, in order to change more lives, I have to do more than any other health coaching company, which, I mean, there is hundreds out there. So what are they all doing that I need to at least be doing, but then do it 10 times better or more? Just, he doesn't even say it's got to be better. It has to be more of it. If I want 5 new leads, I don't need to contact 5 new people. I need to contact 50 people in order to get maybe some of that into leads and one of those people to convert, into wanting to work with me. So that's what I'm working on right now. I think it's, again, really motivational, nothing groundbreaking, nothing that I didn't know before. But like you said with the Discipline Creates Freedom from Jocko, this 10X is kind of the same way. And it's something I realized, like, we have this beautiful office now. We have these whiteboards set up. I have my goals. I write everything out. I have to be disciplined in order to get into my office in order to then do the work. Because if I'm sitting on the couch, or I want to go outside, or I want to quote unquote work from bed while I'm having coffee in the morning, I'm just not as disciplined. And then things will take me 4 times, 5 times longer. And then now my day is gone and I haven't been able to enjoy the day. So my discipline and my 10X rule is getting into the office, doing the things I need to do in an hour or 2, and then enjoying the rest of the day.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I like the 10X rule book. I just finished that one, and then I told Corey to listen to it. I guess the biggest takeaway that I got from that book was like you kind of alluded to it, but like, why only limit yourself to say like, I want 5 clients. Okay, well, if you got 5 clients, you kind of limited yourself. But like, why would you stop at just 5? Why can't you sit there and say, okay, I want 5 clients because of whatever. That's where I need to be for finance-wise or whatever. But why don't you sit there and say, like, I'm gonna aim for 12, or in his words, you always 10x it. So it'd be 50 clients. I want 50 clients, and most of the time when you 10x things, you visualize it. Kind of like our mindset quote today was about visualizing and seeing things. When you visualize it, it'll happen. Mm-hmm. When you write it out and say things like that, that's what I thought was really cool. I was like, it does. I mean, the power of the mind. When you can envision it. That's why these vision boards and stuff are so important. Yeah,
and what I like about what he says too, I'm only halfway through this book, is so you have a goal then. If your original goal was 5 and you 10x it and your goal is 50 clients, but you quote unquote fall short and only get, I say only in air quotes, guys, get 10 clients. You're still, then you had your 5 and then some, or even if you only get 5. But if you had a goal of 5 and you get 3 and now your business can't sustain itself, now you're disappointed. But if you went for 50 and you got 5, you're like, oh, I'm good. Like he's saying, like, when you 10x these goals that you have, even if you fall short, you're going to be less likely to feel discouraged. But if you shoot low and then still don't make, then you will feel discouraged.
The other thing it does is, so obviously 10 times is a big number. 5 versus 50 is a big difference. It makes you think, like, so now I have to find 50 leads or whatever it is. What is the steps to make that happen?
Yeah.
So you can kind of like understand what happens. And a lot of times it's like, it's not necessarily going for that 10 times, it's just understanding what it takes. Because oftentimes, like, business is a lot of systems and processes, and like the systems for 5 clients are a lot different than for 50. So it kind of helps you shift your thinking and your mindset to handle what you'll eventually need to get to.
And like you said, he equates this into your regular life, and this is 100% true. Dave and I remodeled our first ever kitchen. We thought a couple months doing it by ourselves. It, no joke, took a year from start to finish. Cost us 3 times as much as we thought it was going to cost. Timeline was long. And he's like, people do that with everything. And I realize that even in my personal life, I do that. I have this idea that, oh, here's my drive time, here's my work time, here's my, whatever. And then all of a sudden something comes up, there's traffic, I hit lights, all these things. Then I'm frustrated because I only planned for X amount of time, and it took me so much more. But if I plan 10x that, like, okay, my commute is 10 minutes, I'm going to plan for 30 minutes, I don't feel stressed when I get in early. Then I'm like, oh, okay, like today, you know, I got done with my workout, I sat here and did emails early versus later tonight. Again, utilizing that time more appropriate, so tonight I can enjoy life maybe a little bit more than I have in the last couple months. So.
All right, well, I'm going to switch gears. Let me make some notes here.
Podcast?
I'm going to go for a fun book. And this one I've started, it's a long book, so it's taken me a long time to get really into it, but, you know, I read a little bit, about 10 minutes every night. A lot of things going on right now in my life, so I haven't been able to read as much, but for fun, it's called Sapiens, and it's just about, like, it's really cool. It's like a true life story of how the evolution of humans came about and, like, how we started, you know, in different, as like cavemen, and then how those civilizations came from that, and then like the development of, right now it's kind of getting into, it was talking about how we started populating different countries, and then right now it's getting into religion and politics and like how it developed these economic systems and stuff like that, and why, you know, it was mainly a thing of power, which is crazy to think of, but yeah, I mean that's how it is. But it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to read that and like understand, like, wow, you know.
I'm currently reading the biography of Benjamin Franklin.
From
yeah, we talked about
wasn't
this.
Didn't Dusty
He
do
was
that?
doing maybe George Washington.
Yeah.
But it's kind of made me want to look back more at some of the history. So that Sapiens does sound very interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool, and that stuff really, like that humanities type stuff really intrigues me with just thinking of, like, you know, we're only 2,000 years old, and like it's just amazing where we've come.
Of a modern society, yeah.
And where we've come in those times, you know.
Right.
And it's really cool, and how we've developed and how we continue to develop.
Which also makes me want to just point out something, guys. We talk about like that 1% better every day. Our human species is like a complete picture of how that looks. So we had slow growth as human species for the first million years, as, you know, cavemen and Homo sapiens and everything like that. And then look at the exponential growth we've had in the last 2,000 years of the modern age, I quote unquote modern age, and even the last 10 years. I mean, look, I remember when I was 16, so almost 20 years ago, about 15 years ago, and my first cell phone, and where they are now. So like that's that exponential growth that we talk about, guys. That 1% better every day, and then how it'll compound later on.
Yes.
Well, that's a good transition to my next book.
Do it.
Which is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Oh, fun. I don't even know what books you guys are going to talk about, so that's interesting.
Compound, again, is one of those that was not very groundbreaking or anything. What it does is it talks about the importance of doing the important things pretty much like every day.
What's it called?
Compound Effect. And, you know, how that 1% every single day adds up.
Okay.
You know, so like, talks about a lot about it, like getting in the zone and how to really impact your life significantly, like whether that's getting your health and wellness in shape, going to the gym, like basically those habits, how important they are. Again, it wasn't anything. I had read the book years ago, and I found it in my basement and reread it. So it was nothing new or anything, but again, one of those kind of good reinforcers, and it kind of just gets you motivated again to put in the daily work that, you know, isn't really fun or exciting, but it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Corinne, what do you got?
I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to go with a podcast.
Okay.
I do a lot more Audible books and podcasts just because I feel like I don't have a lot of time to sit around and read a, you know, hardcover book. Although I do feel that things sink in more when you have a hardcover book and you have pages. But I figure something's better than nothing. But the podcast I'm going to go with is like if you totally want to nerd out about nutrition in a sciencey way. So I read before, and we've talked about it, Healthy Gut, Healthy You, which is by Dr. Ruscio, and he's got a podcast called Dr. Ruscio Radio. So on his podcast, he obviously majority of it has to do with gut health and then how gut health affects everything else. But he does talk about a lot of things. So Dave and I, another podcast this weekend, was about CBD versus THC and how it affects your gut health and what all these companies are coming out when they're saying it's full spectrum, but it's hemp and it's CBD tincture, whatever it's called. So it is a little bit more dull, I'll say. It's very sciencey. It's they link all of their case studies, and it's with physical researchers about these topics 90% of the time. So if you find that that's boring, I apologize. But if you do like nerding out for statistics, stats, and case studies on nutrition and gut health, that is one of my favorites. Where I learn a lot about gut health and helping people eat healthier, but it opens my eyes to other things that are out there. Not necessarily do I always know what they're specifically talking about, but they'll, have someone on the podcast that then I'll go follow or I'll go read their stuff or something else. And so it increases my learning capacity.
Right.
I like it. So one of the podcasts that I find that I've been listening to, and I like short podcasts.
Yeah.
So anything super long, unless it's a really long drive, but I usually have short drives, to the gyms and back, so it's 10-15 minutes. So anything that's super long, it's really hard for me to get into, because otherwise I'd rather just listen to my audiobook and I'll chip away at it. But one of the ones that I really like, it's the Mindset and Motivation podcast. And they're short, to the point episodes. That's what he puts in his intro. They're 3 minutes to, I think the longest one he ever did was an hour, but he was interviewing somebody, but they're usually between 3 minutes and 12 minutes. So they're really short. He just gets right to the point. One topic, here's what you're doing wrong, or here's what you need to do, a revelation type thing, and then just explains why it's important, and then kind of moves on from there. And then it ends. It's really motivating. It comes out with it Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays of every week, so there's a new episode. And I just like that because it kind of gets you started for Monday, in the middle of the week, and then Fridays.
I did share that one with a lot of people, my sister, a lot of my clients, because so many people don't listen to podcasts yet or don't know where to go. And you're right. I think the shorter ones are just kind of a nice little, let's dip our toe in. Yeah. Let's start drinking the Kool-Aid of, surrounding yourself with positive stuff without it being too overwhelming. And I think that's a good one for sure. Because I told my sister, I'm like, I know you commute every day and have more time, but you can dedicate 3 minutes to that's a song.
Right.
You missed a song on the radio, and now you started your day with a positive mindset.
Right. No, that's really good. And so I follow Rob Dial. That's the owner of that. I follow him on Instagram. So I'll see his motivational stuff on there too. So it's just good to see that. He's just an entrepreneur who wants to change lives.
Positive influences going to the mind.
Yep.
I'll kind of change the what's the word I'm looking for?
Theme?
Yeah, the theme. There we go. The theme of the information. So one of the podcasts I've been listening to a lot of this year is called Listen Money Matters. It's a personal finance podcast, and it's pretty cool. It's it's two guys that are our age. One was is super smart and went to school for financial kind of stuff and knows everything you need to know about personal finance. And the other guy was kind of on the other side where he hated budgeting and he just wanted to enjoy life and spend all his money now and didn't want to save.
I'm not that extreme, but I hate budgeting and I hate spreadsheets, so it's kind of like us.
Right, yeah. So it's cool to get both sides of I relate more to the guy who likes the spreadsheets and everything, but it's interesting to hear the other perspective. And then just great resource for how to manage your money and what to do with it, and should you buy a car or lease a car? Should you buy a house or rent, kind of thing? Where should you put your extra money? Should you keep it in a savings account or invest it?
Or a mattress.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Obviously, you know, I have a financial background and money. It has always been like an important thing for me, and you know, I have certain financial goals for the future. So, I made it a point to learn more about personal finance this year. So I've been listening to a lot of that.
Good.
Yeah,
that's
cool. It's a really good one. So if you're kind of like you don't have any idea on personal finance, it's a great resource to. If you don't have any resources and you don't know much and you want to start listening to it, go back to the beginning of the show. This started like 5 years ago. And you can kind of like, they start from like square one and build. And now the newer ones are kind of, like I talked about at the beginning of the show, it was like all about making money with Airbnb. So it's more like abstract ideas now. But if you go back to the beginning, it was more.
That's really cool, and that's why I really enjoy podcasts, because one, you can just search a specific topic on what you're listening and then find those episodes, and it teaches you things. It's kind of like what YouTube was. I mean, I guess is still, but like whenever you want to learn something, you look up YouTube. Like, oh, there's something on YouTube to teach you something. It's kind of what you're saying here. There's these podcasts on.
Let's do the math quick. They're an average of an hour-long episodes, so 60 minutes. If I listen to one a day while I meal prep, that's 60 minutes. We'll do hours. 5 hours times how many weeks?
52.
Or so far this year? 30? Probably 25, 26. So 5 times 26. 130 hours of personal finance.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's funny. That brings me back to the 10X book, because the guy said, again, you want to be above average. So whatever you want to do, you got to be above average. Most people listen to or read, he said read, 6 books a year. Mm-hmm. And it didn't say what kind of books. 6 books. The wealthiest people in the world were all, obviously have, I'm sure they do case studies all the time and submit, 60.
Yeah.
So again, like you want to get better at finances, so you got to get above and beyond that average of what like I'm doing, which is just making it through right now, and then just like trying to figure out life. And you now I probably spend maybe an hour a week.
Right. And then going back, you know, like we talk about hanging out with the people that you want to be like. So like in the gym, hang out with the people that are getting results in the gym, because you'll naturally, you know, do the things that they're doing, like that's causing them to get results. You'll start developing those habits. You'll get results yourself.
Yep.
Same deal. Like listening to people talk about money and what to do with it makes me want to improve my spending habits and my savings and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. I mean, most of the other stuff that I have on my list, we've kind of already mentioned, and I think we've mentioned in the past. But you know, I find those podcasts like Chasing Excellence. I really like the TED Radio Hours, How I Built This, stuff like that. Hearing people's stories.
You know what we should do? Because I want to do this on my website. We should just make like a page where we have like all the stuff that we
current stuff
kind of listen to.
it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I want to do that on mine. My latest book for fun, I say this laughing, is Salt, Heat, Fat, and Acid. It's a cooking book. It's teaching me how to use those 4 elements to make anything you want. So it's my favorite thing in the world right now. I did not, the last 2 weeks we've had some late days, and I realized that, like you, I have certain times I read, and there's a hardcover book I read at the end of the night. Mm-hmm. But it revs me up, and because like you guys were all off and I had extra hours, and then we had some stress this last week, I didn't need that. So I haven't touched it in about 2 weeks, but it's like a cooking book, and I'm like treating it like a school book. I'm like highlighting things. I got notes in the corner. Like I am so geeked about this, guys. I'm gonna make some bomb ass food for everybody soon.
But that's a good thing. Like I'm the kind of guy that if I start a book, I have to read it. But like in reality, if you're not like getting anything from a book, if it's just like stressing you out almost to like put it down and start something new.
Yeah, I had to read just a fun book, so I'm rereading Wicked, and that's just so my mind can decompress because we've had so much going on these last couple weeks. I wanted to decompress versus trying to, like I said, read a book and like how can I utilize that for life. I just needed, I need 5-10 minutes at the end of the day to decompress. So I'm excited. This week should be good. I'm already thinking about picking it back up tonight. What can I do?
Good.
And get going. So I'm excited about that.
I think I have one last book I want to talk about.
Do it.
Make it good.
It's about productivity, and the idea is so many of us have like so many things that we need to do, but they're just floating around in our head.
Yeah.
That it kind of stresses us out. And the book is called Getting Things Done by David Allen, and it teaches you how to get everything in your mind onto a system, whether that's pen and paper for you, or a spreadsheet, or an app, or whatever you prefer, whatever you like. Getting all the things floating through your mind, whether it's appointments, to-do items, like important dates, getting all that collected somewhere, so then your mind will stop stressing about what you have to do because you know you can look at this system and everything will be there. And instead of stressing about it, it's going to free your mind up to be more like useful, more effective when you're doing the work, or you'll be more creative because you won't be stressed out. Your mind will be free to think better. And I, as someone who tries to get better at productivity all the time, there's a lot of actionable stuff. There's a lot of stuff I was already doing, but like I picked up some really good things too. Like for every actionable item you have, like list the next thing you have to do for it. So say I have to email someone. Like what's the very next thing? If I have to email Corian about an upcoming event, well, like I better research that event so I know what to email her, kind of thing, which helps you stop putting it off.
Yeah.
Because you know the exact next thing you need to do.
I think I talk about that a lot, like with clients on the podcast, everything else in the gym. And, I say the same things. Like we have to keep getting it out of our head and on paper so we can see it. Otherwise, in your head you might have 3 things, but because they're looping and looping and looping, they just seem to go on forever.
And this system won't be perfect. Like you won't always be totally stress-free.
No.
But what it'll do is it'll probably keep it so you only have one thing in your mind you're stressing about, and you can know to just go take care of that, then it's gone. Yeah. And with everything, like if you read the book, there'll be a whole bunch of things you can do. Just like don't freak out if it's overwhelming. Pick a couple of things that make the most sense. Implement them, and then like we talked about before, you can reread it in a year and pick up a few more things.
And I think like anything, eventually you'll get better. Like I have learned, Dave watched me today, I ran in the office and wrote something down, and he's like, what, did you just think of something? I said, yep. So I've learned that, like you said, I have to get it out of my head and on paper.
Yep.
But if it's something I can handle right then and there, I just do it. And you get better at that. You get better at like, I don't need to know the next action item because this thing has come up so many times that I already just know it and I just will do it.
But to kind of piggyback on you running and writing something, I have notebooks in my bedroom now, in my kitchen, just because if I have a thought and I want to remember it, I write it down, and then I have like an in tray of things to process. So I just write it down, I put it in the tray, and then when it's time to go back to it, I don't stress out about implementing it right now. It's write it down, and then when it's time, you can get to it.
I'll see it and I'll be there.
Right, but it just doesn't get lost in your mind.
That's a pretty good point, because like my mind usually goes like at night, because it starts to think about like all the things we did, and then I come up with an idea, and I'll be like, all right, I'll take care of that tomorrow, because there's a time limit. I mean, we're entrepreneurs, we work all the time, but like I try to say, all right, when I'm done with the gym at 8 o'clock, it's time to go home and cook dinner and then just kind of decompress. Then we'll get back at it tomorrow. But like I used to just be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and leave it in my head, and then the next day be like, what was I thinking about? Because I always forget it.
That, or you don't truly sleep because you're so worried about forgetting it. That's me. I'll be like, don't forget, and then I can't sleep.
Put up a whiteboard in my office, and that, like, so if I get an idea, I just go in and write it, or if I know I have things for that week to do, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take care of that on Wednesday. I have to remember to do that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I write it out on the board, and then I just, it's right there all the time. So then I'm like, if I'm like, shoot, what was I supposed to do? Like, it's right there.
When I don't have a notebook, I just text myself.
Yeah,
I've done that.
But I'm so mad that Apple will not let my text to myself stay as a unread message. Because you know how I am with my notifications, I'll flip out.
You gotta text your email. I just learned that.
Yeah, you were telling us about that. For me, for the most part, I know to just, when I need to do something, like look at what you text yourself. But if I'm driving, I'll voice text it so that I don't have to obviously text. But I feel so much less stress getting it out. And like both of you have said, like, I might not get to it now, but I know it's somewhere. Like, I'll leave notes in my laptop, and then when I go home and I'll open my laptop, I'm like, oh yeah, there's everything I needed to do.
Right.
Because I know it's somewhere and it'll get done then.
Right.
Here's my notes right now.
Like, the important part about it is not necessarily when you have a thought, like getting it done right away. It's getting that thought somewhere so you don't have to worry about it.
Right. And then your brain can come up with the next idea. I've had that several times where I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Write it out. I'm like, all right, cool. And I feel good. And all of a sudden then there's another idea that pops into my head, and I write that out.
Maybe it's even better.
Yeah. And then 3 or 4 ideas will come, because all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about that. When all of a sudden the brain, starts thinking of something else.
Or you think something's a good idea, you write it down, you go back to it 4 days later, and you really start to think about it, and you're like, I didn't need to do that, or that's a waste of my time, or that wasn't a good idea. And now you have time to sit on it without really thinking about it, and you can, like, I've opened up and I've had tons of notebooks or like vlog ideas or podcasts or things that need to get done. I'm like, yeah, I'm not fucking doing any of those.
All right.
It's kind of funny because I'm like my list of like to-dos and things, like, so I have 4 different lists. It's like for each thing I'm involved with, there's like things I need to do as soon as possible.
Yep.
Things I'm waiting on from people, because again, I don't want to forget that Dave has to give me something, so not so I can be annoying, but so I can just remember. A projects list, just like all the projects I'm working on, and then like an incubator, so like things that I can do in the future. Some of those are like ideas that would be cool, but maybe we're not ready for, or like goals or objectives for the future. So again, doesn't mean we're going to do it, but now I have it stored there, and I can review it every once in a while and see. And
it's so funny because these last 6 months I've really stressed over, like, okay, how am I going to do my to-do list? How do I make sure I'm getting everything done? And in the last 2 months, with life being crazy, I've stopped caring about to-do lists, and when something pops in my head, I just, like I said, I write it down and I leave it somewhere for me to find, and I'm like, I'm getting way more done in the last 2 months doing that than I am of stressing over how my fucking to-do list is.
So
for me, I needed to back off.
Right, this book would probably say, like, that's not your best thing then. Like, a different system would be better for you.
Yep. So, awesome.
You guys done?
I could talk for days on podcasts. Like you said, I think that, maybe even if we just listed out all our podcasts on our Facebook and our website for you guys to go pick out,
All right. Well, it's been another episode. Stay classy, Harbor Park. See you guys next episode.
See you later, guys.
We'll be 4.
Yeah. Happy 4 years, guys.
Wait, for the gym. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
All right, everyone. That wraps up another episode of Anchored. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to share it with someone you know. Give us a 5-star review on your listening platform. That helps us reach more people. And remember to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. We'll talk to you guys later, and stay classy.
Thanks for listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit. If you would like further information about our programs, visit www.harborparkcrossfit.com. We hope you'll tune in next time.